Hello and welcome to another scrapbooking process video. If you watched my last video, you saw me make this one, which isn't finished yet, but in the process, I cut these 3 circles out, and that's what I'm going to be using for today's project, which was actually done right after the other one and in the same live streaming session. I had been live streaming with my Patreons and having a great time and just kept on going. What was supposed to be, I was suspecting it would be about a 3-hour stream. It ended up being a 7-hour stream, and it was really fun. So thanks to all of the folks over on Patreon who made that so much fun for me. I hope they had fun too. So as you can see, I'm starting with those 3 circles, and I also pulled out that yellow chevron paper, yellow and white chevron paper. All of these papers and most of the embellishments come from the April 2021 hip kit. So quite an old kit. I'm trying to use up some of my old kits. I have 3 or 4 of them picked out that are very full still, despite the fact that I've used them. And I'm trying to get rid of them before I buy some more kits. I do want to buy some more hip kits, but I need to use the ones I have first. So what I've decided to do is kind of nestle those 3 circles like that and have that be like the basis of my page. And then I'm also going to put a little ledge across the edge of it like this, just to give my photo a little ledge to sit on. I like using ledges in my pages. Now I'm going to grab my sewing machine. This is a Janome New Home sewing machine, which is a half-size sewing machine. It's really handy for the craft room because it's light and easy. I keep it on a fairly high shelf, and it's easy for me to just lift it down with one hand and plug it in and use it. I keep the cords under my desk so that all I have to do is just pull them out and plug them into the machine, and I'm ready to go. I am going to double sew around the edges of each of these circles, and I'm doing so in a kind of like a slightly wonky way. So I'm not making it, two perfect lines. I'm making the lines crisscross each other and be kind of casual and doodly looking. It's like I'm doodling on my page, but with a sewing machine instead of with a marker. And you don't have to use special thread or special setting or special needle, although your needle will get dull if you use it for scrapbooking. So if you use your machine for both scrapbooking and fabric, you might want to have a dedicated needle for this, but it's really not necessary. So as I finish up my sewing on each of these circles, I'm just taking a minute to pull up the edges just to give it a little bit more dimension so that those edges have a little bit of lift and bending to them. It makes them look a little bit distressed. But I'm not going so far as to use a distressing tool. I'm just curving them up a little bit with my hands. And I'm trimming all the thread off. And I like the look that the black thread gives to a project like this. It just gives some definition to the edges of those circles, which are going to be the main structure of my page. So now I decided I wanted to, with my little ledge, I wanted to punch a border punch. And so I took out 3 different options or 4, I guess, different options that I thought I might have wanted to use. And I allowed my patrons to choose which one. And they were kind of indecisive. So I was going to use my magic 8-ball to decide, but it turns out they chose this one, the Fiskars one, which is it's called apron lace. Oh, I had 1 vote for, it seemed like it was even between those 2, but then more people weighed in, and it turns out that the Fiskars won out. And I liked all of them, so I would have won either way, no matter what they chose. So I was happy either way. This apron lace punch is something I don't think I've used for many, many years, and I really, really love it. And after I punched it, I remembered that I actually used to use this punch in a really different way. I'm going to go ahead and outline the edges of this with my marker, and it's tricky outlining scalloped edges with a marker, so just go slow and just follow the curves of the scallops. And I'm doing this, but I'm actually not going to use it. I'm going to cut this part off because what I remembered, I don't know if I remembered it while I was doing this or right after, but what I remembered is that I used to use this border punch in a different way. I used to punch it out of a darker cardstock and then layer it with a strip of pattern paper. And that's what I want to do on this page because it will help this strip stand out from the page and have a little bit more presence. And where I want this strip to anchor my photo to the page, I do want it to have a bit more weight than some of the other things. And this will allow me it to have more weight than the circles behind it that have the black sewing on it. So because there's black sewing on those circles, they have a bit more weight because black tends to lend weight to an item on your page. And so as you can see, as soon as I add that little border, and you can add it two ways, like you could make it so that all you can see is the little scallops, or you can make it so that you see a little bit of the black straight line underneath of the scallops. And that's how I'm going to do it. There's going to be a little bit of matting showing underneath of, like before the little scallops. Just going to cut off this black part, and oops, I cut it totally crooked. Look at that. Yeah, that's wrong. So, I mean, it doesn't have to be perfect, but I am going to cut that down because it's going to throw off the balance on my page. So there, now it's straight, and I am going to outline that top page, that top edge as well. And you could outline the edges, like those two vertical lines as well, but I'm not going to because I'm going to give it more of like an incomplete look, like it was cut off there. Now I'm just going to mat my photo. This is a photo of me in my scrap room. And I'm just kind of messing around with where it's going to land and how those circles are going to overlap one another. So that was my easiest decision, was how will they overlap, because I just wanted them just like that. But where the photo and the ledge go is another question. Like I was thinking, is it going to go high like this or is it going to go low? And the more I thought about it, the more I wanted it to go high. Let's put these on my background paper because that's again another bit of a no-brainer. I just wanted it kind of centered, but a little bit lower than centered. And now, yeah, I think I'm going to go with putting the photo higher on the page than I was originally planning. Before I do that, I was just noticing that the photo was a little bit lopsided with its matting, and with that bold black matting, it actually was a little bit distracting, so I decided to trim that down a little bit. And I like how that placement of the photo kind of covers up one of the intersections of the pink and the colorful circles, because those intersections, you know, they're places that your eye kind of naturally go to. So if the photo is where one of those intersections are, then your eye is going to kind of naturally gravitate towards that. And I want to draw your eye toward the photo because the photo is the centerpiece. So in the last layout that had the shaker with all of the shaker feature with all of the sequins on it, I had pulled out these flower and insect die cuts from the Hip Kit Club. They came in that same April kit. And because they were already, well, on my desk, I just decided to put them in my little valet tray again and use these as the embellishment on this page. And this is a fairly simple and straightforward page in that, you know, it just has a couple of big pattern paper elements. And then I'm just tucking some die cuts in the places where those elements overlap. And I'm making kind of two real clusters as opposed to three. But there will still be a couple of visual triangles on my page. The big obvious one is the three circles make a visual triangle. But at the end, I'll show you another place that there is a visual triangle as well, which I will create. Now, I wanted to outline all of those flowers, but I was really liking where they were. So I just snapped a photo of it with my phone so that if I messed it up in the outlining process, I'd be able to find where everything went. Now, I started with a real messy outlining technique where I was just kind of moving pretty fast with my outlining, and I actually didn't like how that turned out. So I'm going to replace that flower with another one. So I grabbed this one. I kind of like the coloring of the other one. It's purple, but I just was going too fast and the lines were too like small and maybe wispy, whereas these lines are more intentional and a little bit thicker because I was going slower. So my pen was more bold. I'm just using my Sharpie pen to outline these, and a Sharpie pen is different than a Sharpie marker. So the Sharpie marker is a slick surface writer, so it's a permanent pen that you can write on shiny surfaces, whereas the Sharpie pen is more of just a felt tip pen, and it's not for slick surfaces. If you use a Sharpie marker on regular paper, like porous paper, it will bleed and your line will be thicker than what you probably want it to be, unless if you're purposely going for a bled out kind of look to your lines. So I only mention that because it's easy to mistake the two and grab a Sharpie pen when you mean to grab a Sharpie marker. So I was a little hesitant to outline this one actually because this sticker is actually a little bit shinier than the others, and I thought, is this even from the same pack? But it just is, for whatever reason, the printing on it was more glossy. And so it was okay for me to use the same marker. And you'll notice I didn't outline exactly the same way for each of those flowers. So some of them have like more of an overall outlining, and others have just outlining in the centers. And that just gives it a little bit of definition and interest. I don't want every single surface to be outlined, or else it becomes too busy. So in this one, I'm just going to outline the outside edges, and then I'm going to outline that little white star in the very center as well for this one. And for that larger yellow one, all I outlined were some of the circles in the center of it. I didn't outline any of the petals. And then the leaves will be just glued down with no outlining. And I'm making that be consistent, that all of the leaves don't have outlining, but all of the flowers have some type of outlining somewhere. So I think that's the last one. I'll just place that there, and I'm putting a little gap between that blue flower and the other cluster of flowers, just a tiny little gap, so that that just adds a little bit of interest there. I was wrong. This is the last flower to outline. It's a cute little blue one. These flowers are beautiful. The Hip Kit Club makes such beautiful embellishments. I love their die cut packs. So I'll just glue that one so it layers with the other, and I just wanted to make sure that some of the center of that other one was visible because I really like how it looks. So there's sort of 3 clusters. If you consider that blue flower all by itself, it's kind of part of the other cluster, but it's a little bit separate. You don't have to have 3 on every single thing that you do. So I'm really liking how this is looking. I just have to make my final decision on where the photo and the ledge is going to go. But I will outline this tiny little bee. I think it's so cute. So I'm just gonna, I wasn't gonna outline the wings, but it looked kind of weird without it being outlined. Especially from a distance, it looked kind of strange. You couldn't tell that it was a bee until I outlined the wings. I'm adding a pop dot there so it pops up off the page and kind of follows the angle of the paper that it's glued to, which also lifts up off the page a little bit. And what I was thinking is that it would be pretty cool if I had a little tiny pair of scissors to put in the beak of the bird. And it's quite possible that I have scissors somewhere in my stash, like little tiny scissor stickers, but the amount of time it would take me to look for them probably wouldn't pay off with the addition that would add to the layout. So I'm not going to do that, but I do want to kind of think about titles here. And once again, my members over on Patreon came to my rescue by one of them coming up with, it was Harmony, I think, who came up with this amazing title, or like journaling that led to a title. And what she told me, the suggestion that she made was, "Some bloom where they're planted, I bloom in my craft room," which is really great because there's all kinds of flowers all over this page, and it's a picture of me in my craft room. So I just thought that was really great, creative, fun journaling for this page. This is more of just like a fun page. I don't really have a story to tell. I just had 3 circles to use and some time on my hands because my family was out for the day. And so I just thought, let's just throw together another page while everybody's here. So I do have some thicker alignment tools that are rounded, but they were the wrong angle for the circle that I have here. So I am not going to actually use those thicker alignment tools. I'm just going to wing it. I'm just going to line these up along the edge. And I want the craft room to be on this bottom circle here. Except I'm going to have to scooch them together just a wee little bit more than that in order for there to be room for that title. These thickers, by the way, are Dear Lizzie. They're called Woodland. I love the scale of them, and I love that they're blocky and plain. Black foam letter stickers are my very, very favorite. So let's apply this little ledge so that it kind of spans from the edge of the layout all the way over to that first cluster of flowers. And because it's off the page a little bit here, because to kind of make up for the lift on the circles. And my photo will sit nicely on the little ledge. And then I'll add some outlining to the little bird. I'll cut off that little ledge that overhangs a little bit. And I do know that I have the Creative Agenda collection, which was designed by Caitlin Schaefer with, what was that? Was it with Echo Park, or I can't remember who made that paper, but it's the Creative Agenda paper. And I knew there were some art supplies in that, but there's no scissors. But there were some paintbrushes and stuff. So I thought I'd put the paintbrushes amongst the flowers. I thought it looked kind of cute and added a little unexpected detail to the flower arrangement. And it kind of fits with the idea of like I'm blooming in my craft room, like craft supplies and flowers are kind of like, you know, one and the same in this world. And so I had some suggestions of different collections that might have a pair of scissors in them. So I didn't know if I had any of those collections. So I just took out all of my die cut packets that are still in their collection. I usually sort them by color, but I have a whole bunch here that are just, I left them in their collections. And so I took those out. I didn't have any that have scissors in them. And I wasn't really willing to go scouring through my supplies to find them. And I think the layout looks great without the scissors in the bird's mouth. That's fine. I'm going to write out my journaling on this strip, and then that will give me a sense of how much space these words take in my handwriting so that I can decide where to put it. So I'm putting the phrase "I bloom in my" right above craft room, and then I'll put some bloom where they're planted. ... So I'm loving this page. I'm going to pop up this bird using some Stampin' Up dimensional adhesive and place him right beside my photo so that he's looking in on me. And the last detail is going to be these enamel dots. Sorry about that. My last detail is going to be these enamel dots. I'm going to put them in 3 different places. So this will be the last visual triangle on this page. So I'm going to put these blue ones right beside the blue circle. And then I'm going to put these pink ones up here beside the pink circle, and I'm just using different sizes and arranging them in little mini triangles. And then I'll put these yellow ones down by the yellow flowers on the multicolored circle. So I think that's it for this one. I'm just going to tidy up my desk a little bit, and then I will show you the 2 layouts that I did in this scrapping session together. So here it comes. So if you didn't see this shaker layout come together with all the sequins in the window in the back, then make sure that you check out my channel. It's probably the video right before this one. And that was really fun to make, and it was a little bit of a longer layout, although not longer than average, just longer than this one. This one was a pretty quick and fast. It might have been maybe an hour to make this one or so. So thank you so much for watching, and thank you also to my Patreons, because if it weren't for them, I wouldn't be able to keep on making videos at the pace that I do. So thanks to them so much. And if you're on the fence about joining my Patreon, I will be streaming on June 18th. And so if you'd like to join me for that, I'd love to have you. You can head on over to Patreon to check that out. The link is in the bottom of this screen right here. And so take care and have a really great scrappy week. And I'll see you next time.